Merci. Bonsoir et bienvenue à cette keynote d'ouverture des assises de la cybersécurité, édition 2022. Je vous l'ai dit tout à l'heure dans notre discours d'introduction, vous apportez le maximum de solutions et le but des assises tout le long de l'année, mais surtout ici. Et je suis très fière parce que cette keynote d'ouverture est présentée par une société dont la technologie a vraiment traversé des défis et vous accompagne encore plus dans les mois qui viennent. Et je suis donc très contente de passer aussi en anglais, parce que cette keynote sera présentée en anglais. Elle sera présentée par le CEO de SentinelOne. So, let me warmly introduce Thomas Weingarten, CEO of SentinelOne.
Hey everybody, really honored to be here today. Thank you so much for taking the time. I'm sure you've heard quite a bit about XDR already and probably going to hear a lot more about it in the coming days, so I'll try to not bore you too much with all the details and not try to tell you what XDR is, but really maybe try in the next 10-20 minutes to talk about the essence of XDR and why XDR. I mean, why are we even talking about that new concept and what is that new concept supposed to solve for us first and foremost? So with that, let's start at the beginning. This was our world. Everything was technology that was on-prem, mainframes, all kinds of devices. That's what enabled us to do business. We transitioned as mankind from relying on manual work. We switched to machines. We're leveraging machines to actually do more and to achieve more. Technology really became the infrastructure for the enterprise. It's what allows us to do everything today. Every transaction, every deal that we do, every handshake is done with technology today. So it became this part of the fabric of our society. But then we didn't really stop there. Something along came like the internet, and that really meant that everything just turned completely connected. Now you have access to everything. Everything can be accessible from every part of the world. You can be in a complete different place, but now you can access all that technology that existed on-prem. So with that, was born the need to secure things and really needed to protect that. So we started pouring in so many different types of technologies to try and mitigate access, to try and control access. We built perimeters, we put firewalls, we put antiviruses, IDSs, IPSs, sandboxes, you name it, we've put it there some point, some way to try and really regulate the access to our castles, to our on-prem environments. And then, if that wasn't enough, there's a new thing that came and really changed our world completely, which is the cloud. The cloud basically introduced a whole new way for us to extend our perimeter, to extend our services, to deliver what we do across every boundary possible. But that also introduced a major shift in how we're thinking about that castle. The castle that we have on the ground now became a castle in the sky. How do we protect both of those? How do we really interface between them? How do we even regulate access in such a world? That became, an added complexity. And cloud benefits are really, just too good to ignore. So the transition that we're seeing right now, which is really not even at the, what I would call, peak point of it, is just the beginning of a massive and continuing cloud transition that we're going to see. So if you think you're running in the cloud right now, if you kind of take a 5 or a 10-year view into the future, Imagine what your cloud footprint would be versus your on-prem footprint. Imagine where the weight of protection might need to be, and imagine all the different workloads, servers, and other devices, virtual and physical, that you're going to have all across, both in the cloud, on-prem, and also your users. Let's not forget them. We went mobile pretty much on a day's notice. When the COVID pandemic erupted, everybody became mobile. Everybody's working from home, working from everywhere, and that added yet another layer of complexity to our parameters. Now, the devices that you used to have in your castle, they're roaming free. They're on the grass, they're running around. You don't know where they are, and you don't also know what they access, how they access it, and who is really a trusted component of your network. That concept of the network changed completely. The network is no longer just a collection of devices inside of a perimeter. The network is now everywhere. For cybersecurity, that means chaos. That means problems. That means more attack surface, more ins and outs, more gates to cover, more points to try and monitor. And for cybersecurity as an industry, I would say we're really at a crossroads. We've been trying to reinvent and evolve most of the defenses that we've been using for the past 20 years. The firewall became a next-gen firewall. Endpoint protection became next-gen endpoint protection. We're just trying to add more and more generations to the tried and tested methods of the past. It's not like we've been super secure in the past, so I don't know why we always assume that if we just improve it a little bit more, we're going to be more secure in the future. So clearly, and I say this with great sadness, cybersecurity is behind. Cybersecurity is completely behind the pace, the rapid pace of technology advancement. It's behind what's happening in the enterprise every single day. And sadly, that also means that we're behind the attackers and the adversaries as well. We no longer live in an endpoint network defined world. That concept has completely dissolved. It doesn't exist today. It doesn't matter. No one can say that their entire network is extremely well defined and they know all devices and everything that exists in it. It's just not the case anymore. And attackers obviously understood that as well. You might have seen a complete shift year after year in attack methodology. And for those who have been around, and I'm sure lots of you have been around for years and years on end, the threat landscape never sits idle. The threat landscape never stays the same. Every single year, every single month, every single quarter, there's going to be a new vector of attack. There's going to be more surfaces to exploit. There's going to be different ways to go about it. And there's going to be someone out there that tries to circumvent every single control you have on the way. And our focus as an industry was in building more and more and more control, trying to detect more and more and more threats. So maybe it's time to rethink what we do. Maybe it's time to take all these great foundations that we've learned about over the years and really try to reimagine what cybersecurity could be, what your network could be. How does it look like? What does it look like today? Maybe your network should really be reimagined by data. Every workload, every user, every device that takes part in your networking can be defined by data streams, by monitoring, by logs, by telemetry. And that's what we believe is going to be the way to get to the point that we're actually able to control by monitoring, by subscribing back to the network, by knowing that every monitored device, monitored asset, monitored user, and monitored workload is something that we control, something that we trust. But we can't think about these assets as just one-offs, and we can't think about them in silos. Correlating between these assets is really the key to unlocking how we can defend the enterprise better. It's about the interlock of all these different entities that really allows for a different outcome than trying to protect endpoints separately and users separately and the cloud separately, and then just trying to collect all the data and look at it, which is kind of what we do today with most SIEM solutions. The key would be to start having all of these separate silos interconnected, interlocked, and have the ability to orchestrate one another, to enrich the context of one another, and to understand in every given moment what is happening to a given entity across all three different aspects of what an entity can do. Whether it's a user, a workload, or a device, you want to make sure that all three components, what's being accessed, what's using for access, and the user that's accessing, are all vetted, trusted, and they all work in concert to ensure that model. So it's time to reset. It's time to think about XDR, and not any one specific XDR, but just the concept of XDR as something that allows you to create an opt-in network, an ability to now say, everything that I can see and monitor in my XDR data lake, if I can see the logs, if I can see the data, if I can see it has a heartbeat, a pulse, it's alive, so to speak, that means that it's something that I can trust, I can enforce policies, I can see what's happening, and that really gives me the understanding that I at least know that it's a trusted part of my network. What do you do next? That's a different question. Cybersecurity also has to become probably 10 times easier than what it is today, which means that when we talk about AI and machine learning, and we really think it's this magical concept that can solve everything, we all know that's not really the case. But what we do know is that with AI and with machine learning, you can actually reduce a large part of the noise. It doesn't mean that all the noise goes away. It doesn't mean that we will become more concrete and more accurate and everything will be 100% automated, but it does mean that at some point, and it's happening today with most endpoint malware, you'll have the ability to leverage machine learning to reduce 99% of the incidents and really focus on 1% anomalies that matter. Some of those are going to be false positives. Some of those are going to be just weird things happening. Some of these are going to be suspicious events. But these should become the core work body of every security practitioner. The other part, everything that can be solved via automation, via machine learning, should be removed from the table, meaning added capacity, added productivity for every cybersecurity practitioner today. I think we're achieving a lot of that today on the endpoint front, and the goal in XDR is to start allowing these same models to execute at complete enterprise scale and allowing you to focus on what the machine highlights and not only what we're now reactively hunting for or searching for. Let the machine highlight what can potentially be wrong. Even if it's not a 100% threat, we have to move from the binary 0 and 1 threat or no threat model into more of a heuristic look at our environment and a heuristic look at risk as a whole. It's not enough to just do that. To actually be effective and prevent and deflect attacks, it also has to be a lot faster than it is today. There is no time for that lag between monitoring, detection in the cloud, going back, running remediation, fixing the machine. The attacker is already out with your secrets or whatever they were after. Everything has to evolve to be almost real time. I know that all of us in this industry talk about this term, real time, real time, real time. Nothing is really real time. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's how physics work. But if we can really be faster, much faster than what we do today in processing event data, in reaching decisions, and then acting autonomously with no human lag in the loop, we'll be faster. And the outcome for our security practice will be 10 times better than what it is today. We have to focus from detection and response into prevention, detection, and response. We have to really go back a tiny bit to try and bring back the ability to deflect attacks, to stop them in their tracks and not just constantly be reactive. And if we can do that for what is right now one of the biggest footprints in the enterprise, which is the endpoint footprint, if we can extend that into cloud security, if we can extend that into user security and weave all of those together, then you start looking at a system that can regulate almost every part of enterprise infrastructure in a much more effective way than anything that we've done in the past. Lastly, and this to me would be just describing the ideal, because I think we're very far from it. Cybersecurity needs to be very transparent. It can't be in the way. Cybersecurity is becoming this, this inseparable pillar from everything we do. It's not just about what you all think about cybersecurity, which is kind of our day-to-day, protecting from attacks, protecting from threats. It's also about privacy. It's also about encryption. It's also about controlling the data. It's also about protecting the consumers that use every single one of the services that your enterprise provides to them. They are who we are here for, right? I mean, these are the people that we eventually protect. We protect the data of everyone. That's in one way, shape, or form what each and every enterprise eventually does. We protect our customers, we protect our users, we protect everybody in this world from having their data, their identity, their details completely compromised. Much like something like HTTPS and SSL is something you don't really think about every now and then, right? I mean, it's just there, and it works, and it's at the backbone. If the ideal is ever to come true, a lot of what we're talking about here today, and it's going to be a long journey. I mean, none of what I just described is going to happen tomorrow, next week, or even next year. We're talking about a multi-year journey to overhaul enterprise infrastructure. But if we get to the point that it's more transparent, if we get to the point that it's less in the way and more natural to what we do, then we're going to be more successful than ever before. The time to start all of this is now, because there's also one dramatic big advantage to all of this model. We are all now in not the greatest, economic condition, I'd say, globally. And what another benefit of XDR is actually cost saving, operationally and for data storage. So if you think about it through that vantage point, I would add another slide. Cybersecurity needs to be cheaper. Yes, I know, I'm the one who's selling that. I know that we're part of the problem, but I do believe cybersecurity needs to be cheaper. And I do believe that the way to get there is by leveraging cloud scale data analysis, which is what we and a slew of other vendors are trying to do to replace the antiquated on-prem solutions that are trying to house data in all those archaeological ways that just cost a ton of money these days. XDR will eventually be able to replace 99% of these use cases. We're probably at about 10 to 15% of these use cases today, but gradually and pretty fast, we're adding more and more capabilities that can allow you to shift away completely from your current data processing solutions. And even in some cases, if you still want to keep them for whatever reason, you can always augment with XDR and again unlock some more cost savings. This is happening today, and it's more important today than any other point in history, especially given the economic downturn that we might be seeing or is happening. Everybody can pick their own opinion. With that, I'll end. Thank you so much for the time and attention. Really appreciate it. And hope everybody's going to have a safe week and a safe year. Thank you.